So we're going to go over the late economy art of war challenge for gold. This is a relatively easy challenge in order to get gold. And one of the main focuses is that you always want to make sure that you're building villagers and that you always want to make sure that you're building traders. So start off by making sure that your trade route or trade building location is set to the trading center down at the bottom in the south, so that way all of your traders that are being crafted or created immediately go to the trade center instead of ending up where they're not functioning or not moving. Follow up by building another town center so that you can work on building villagers as quickly as possible. You need about 4 of them in order to create all of the villagers that you're going to need by the time slot, as well as making sure you have about 3 to 4 trading centers in order to build the rest of those as well. So after you get started, you don't have to worry about a whole lot except for sending out some of your villagers to the wheat location so that way they can work on building and crafting resources and you don't have to worry about them. Another trick I like to use is to make sure that your town centers are pointed towards forests, because you know that they'll be getting work done that is vital to your production process. You also want to make sure that you're going back to double check your trade locations as well as your town hall locations so that you can make sure that the queue is always full. Even if you miss a little bit of time here, it's not going to hurt you too much because there's enough leniency in this challenge that I think there's about a full minute in the minimum amount of queue time that you need, or the minimum production time that you need to max out all the traders for the challenge as well as all the villagers for the challenge. So plenty of time to work with, especially if you're building multiple locations, so don't worry about it too much. Just make sure your queue is always full. At this point, you should be able to build a couple extra houses, maybe 1 or 2 just to tide you over, and then start working on excess farm productions to get you the resources that you're going to need just to be able to buy all of the villagers and all of the traders that you will be ordering in this challenge. At this point, you're also going to want to work to make sure that any villagers that are coming out of some of your town halls are starting to be sent to mining for gold and mining for minerals. It'll allow you to make sure that you can use those excess resources for building new town halls and new trade centers, as well as making sure that you constantly have resources to trade in case you're light on any resources, like for example wood or food, to keep your queues full at all times. Feel free to send some of those villagers directly from a town center to one of the resource points, as well as making sure that one of your town halls is still pointing to forests so that you can continue wood production. One of the harder points to this seems to be that there's always a light amount of wood. I always felt starved until I got much further into this challenge and had about 40 to 50 villagers, at which point it became a lot easier for me to keep up with my resources. But I still find myself trading my way through a lot of the end part of this challenge. Right as you're finishing your second trade post, you're going to have to start managing the resources at the trading centers to keep those trading center queues full. So you'll be selling off wood, selling off food in order to make sure that you have the gold or wood required in order to still keep that queue full. Don't forget to go back to your town centers and make sure that your villager queue is full on both locations. We're going to be starting to work for a 3rd town center and a 3rd trade center here very shortly, while we're still in the production of building out a few more farms so that we can continue our food production en masse. So coming up here at about 4 minutes and 30 seconds, you're going to be right on the point where you're getting ready to build your next town center, which is number 3. If you're following extremely closely with where I've been at, you'll have to manage some of those traders to make sure you still have the resources after you get out of building your town center, that you haven't starved yourself from being able to replenish your queue. Make sure you're managing everything that you need to by selling off excess food or excess stone gold in order to make sure that you can keep that queue full at all times. It is absolutely crucial that that gold supply continues to stay with you throughout this challenge. So we're about coming up on the halfway point in our time clock, and I'm sitting on an average of about 40 villagers and 15 traders, which is more than enough time to be able to continue this production process. Continue to build villagers and send them to the woods. Again, as I was saying earlier, I seem incredibly wood-starved during this process, but you're going to have to start allocating resources in order to build farms, as well as houses, because you're coming up on your population cap again. And this is about the 5-minute mark. From here, after you're sending some of your villagers in to build some houses out on your outskirts, you can start, if you would like, to take some of your villagers and allocate resources back to mining, sending them to stone and sending them to gold. Double check to make sure you don't have any spare or errant villagers roaming around. Get them back to work so that you can keep up your production quality as well as your resource farming, because you always want to stay efficient. It's pretty crucial near the end, just in case you have anything that you need to take care of, as well as making sure you have enough villagers or workers to build out your castle upgrade. So spend some time, send them out to the fields, building more fields as you go. You should have more than an ample supply of wood by now. At this point, I'm almost up to about 30 villagers that I've got roaming around the woods in order to make sure that I've got the supply of resources that I need. Then immediately start to allocate building the third trading post so that way you can continue your trading or trader production. They are a little bit longer in order to produce, so having 3 to 4 of them seems to get you plenty enough time. But if you're feeling challenged in time, don't be afraid to build another location just in order to continue more production of those troops. So at this point, I've started to allocate a lot more resources to gold and a little bit less to stone, just because I'm starting to get to a point where I don't have to worry about building any other locations. And then I can sell off some of those resources in order to build my next town center, or I can work on building any other resources that I would need to make sure that I've got enough space for my villagers. We're coming up on another location too as we near the cap side of resources to build more houses, just to make sure we can cover our population. Feel free to spend more of your troops up into the upper right hand corner of the farm so that way you can work towards getting that 2,400 goal for food supply that you're going to need to build your large center. So at this point, I'm a little shy of 8 minutes in, and I'm starting to allocate some of those excess villagers from the farm back over to stone, just to make sure that I do have enough resources in stone. But I've got plenty in gold, plenty in wood that I can always sell in order to make up for that if necessary. And I do believe I do that in order to make sure that I've got enough space. About 8 minutes, you might run into the point where you have to start building those houses that I was talking about. Keep that in mind. You might be able to start building them early so you don't have to reallocate your villagers in order to building it. But you're starting to come up to the point too where you're going to end up taking them off in order to build your large facility. So at about 8.5 minutes in, I'm just shy of the gold that I need of 2,400 food and 1,400 gold. So feel free to sell off some of the wood that you need in order to make sure that can happen, and then continue to build villagers in order to achieve your goal, as well as traders in order to achieve your goal. If you've been closely following this point till now, you should be 1 trader away from hitting that target, which is no big deal from there, so don't worry about any other queues if that's a concern. Continue to make sure that villagers are being built and sent to the location that you're going to use as your building site for our large facility. So I end up selling a little bit of lumber and some excess gold in order to give myself a little bit more of a supply for food, just to make sure I'm prepared to build out the tower. I've taken some of my villagers over from a lumber site to the northeast and then prepped them by placing them over at a free space location, wherever you might have that in the current moment. And you can have about 50 plus villagers in order to build the tower. So as soon as you actually get it in production, feel free to take any troops that you may have and then send them right on over to the location to get the rest of the tower built. It shouldn't take much time at all in order to finalize. And I know that there's quite a bit of time that's left between the minimum gold value and where I finalize at a little over 9 minutes and 50 seconds. So if you do feel like you're behind, don't worry too much. There's still plenty that you can do in order to make sure that you achieve that goal. And here we are, finishing at 9 minutes and 50 seconds for an easy win. I appreciate everyone taking the time to sit down and watch one of the videos in an instructional form on how you can achieve gold in late economy, and I plan on making a few more in order to make sure that I can help everyone out there finish the rest of these challenges. If you like what we're doing here, feel free to subscribe and like, comment, all the normal stuff, and as they come out, we'll keep on putting them out. Thanks for watching.